I believe we are now live on Facebook. Hello, Facebook world. I'm joined by Steve Chandler, as you can see. And Steve and I are doing a Facebook Live as we said we would on the subject of why coaching is a relationship business. And this is something that I've really learned from Steve. It's something that I'm seeing more and more every single day, and we would love just to spend about 20 minutes or so talking to you. If you're online, I can see a bunch of people joining us. Feel free to say hello. Hi, Helen. I know you know Helen, Steve. She joined us in London and sang beautifully for us.
Yes.
Hi, Edith. If you've got any questions as we're talking, please let me know. I'll relay them to Steve, who can't see them, but I'll do that. So I'm doing this on my wall, and I'm assuming everyone knows Steve. But for people that don't, Steve, do you want to give a very quick overview of who you are and why you are qualified to talk about coaching and it being a relationship business?
Well, I don't know if I'm qualified, but I have a lot of experience working with coaches over the past 10 years. I've had a program for coaches focused on the business side of coaching, not focused on how to coach, but it's been focused on how to acquire clients and build a profitable business. And one of my students in the program was Rich Litvin, and he attended 4 times and became so good at what we were doing that he became one of the co-presenters, co-facilitators in his 4th time through. And he and I wrote a book together called The Prosperous Coach, based on our experience with working with other coaches on how do they change from really struggling as a coach and becoming prosperous and building a prosperous practice through coaching. So that's my background. I've written books. I do public speaking, and I work with people one-on-one. Most of my clients are not coaches, but I do love working with coaches. It's really my most fun thing is teaching coaches how to acquire clients. And I want to say, Kush, I've learned a lot from you in this whole idea of relationships and relationship building, and as a creative skill, as opposed to just being lucky in love or having a magnetic personality you've had since you were 2, but really learning relationship. And your relationship series is something that I assign parts of to many of my clients so that they can use what they learned there to help them enroll people into their business, or anyone in the world of sales or enrolling or nonprofit, acquiring donors into a nonprofit system. It all works the same way. And I've learned a lot from you. I don't know how much, if you know exactly how much, but quite a bit. Your relationship series is really extraordinary.
Thank you for that, Steve. No, I really appreciate it, and I value that so much coming from you. Really everything that I've learned, everything that's worthwhile that I've learned around growing my coaching practice and how this is a relationship business has come from you. So I really value that, and what I found was that I was good at this thing called coaching, or I learned this thing called coaching over a few years, and I knew it really helped people, and the few people that I did it had a profound impact on, and yet I was struggling to have people sign up and hire me. And that's where you really came in. And one of the things I remember was that I was really surprised when we started working together. I don't know what I really expected, but just how much you focused on building relationships with people, one person at a time, as opposed to what I had seen up until that point, what I had been taught, which was kind of the opposite. You know, it was like building huge lists, making yourself more visible, marketing myself. And that seemed to make sense. Well, if I'm more well known, then it follows that I'm going to get more clients. And what you did was really help me see that to turn that on its head and really work with one person at a time, which now makes so much sense to me, because that's what I do as a coach. I work very deeply with one person at a time.
Yeah, and that's a primary mistake that coaches make. They kind of automatically go into I need to be better known mode, where they market themselves, they put themselves out there, they try to get more connections and leads, and they do all the things that they believe will eventually help their coaching practice. Self-promotion, marketing, but what they're not seeing, and this is usually a turning point in a coach's career financially, is waking up to the fact that this is a relationship business. So as a coach tries to become more famous or more well-known, when you meet a famous person at a party, you're actually more nervous around that person than if you meet someone no one knows. If I meet someone nobody knows, I can relax, I'll share things. But if I meet Jennifer Lopez or Brad Pitt or somebody at a party, then I'm nervous, and how am I coming across, and the chance of a relationship occurring is less. So when coaches try to get better known and they try to make an impression, it makes them less approachable, and they miss the fact that this is a relationship business, and what people are going to eventually pay you for is their relationship to you, the relatedness they feel, how relaxed and open they feel in your presence, so they can share everything, and how they can identify with you and feel like, well, if Ankush can do this, I can do this, because he's sharing with me all the insecurities he had around this issue, and now I'm really relaxed. And so that's why the 3P type of coaching and practitioners who are 3P, they're really natural enrollers, but they don't know it. They think after I market and advertise myself and promote myself and sell and get a client, then I'll really show them what I can do. And after that, I will show them how good 3P is, and how normal their feelings are, and they're going to love it. But first, I've got to sell. And what they don't realize is they're hiding the very thing they're selling, and they're replacing it with an attempt to promote themselves and manipulate another person and persuade another person to do something. And it becomes it's distancing. It's actually distancing. And this is a relationship business. And people are more likely to hire you when the relationship starts to happen between you. And when coaches wake up to that, sometimes it takes years, sometimes it only takes weeks, but they slap their forehead and they say, oh my goodness, this is a relationship business. And so you might think, well, what does that really mean? Well, when you think of a relationship, think of your family. Think of somebody close to you in your family. If your daughter or your significant other, your partner or your sister comes to you with a problem, you cut to the chase, and your first thought is, from a fearless heart, how do I help her? How do I make a difference? How do I serve her? And so your first question is, what's going on? What's going on in your world? You look like you have a challenge, or you look excited. You look like tell me more about that. So that's how related people communicate with each other. And it's the same way a doctor, if you come into the doctor's office, come into the emergency room, the doctor says, what's going on with you? And he doesn't say, oh, let me tell you where I went to medical school. And let me tell you the kinds of people I work with. Let me tell you what the billing is going to be like. He doesn't, he says, where does it hurt? Because, and that's what I mean by a relationship. And so many coaches waste hours and hours and they schedule meetings and talks and then more talks, and they do this flirtation, this dance, the distancing dance, where the other person is seen as other, not related to me at all. In fact, not a friend, not a family member, and this person is a target. This is a target of opportunity. So actually, this person is being thought of almost more like a military person sees the enemy. How do I get them in my sights? How do I close in on? How do I close? How do I close in on them? And I have coaches say, when they say this, what do I say? But nobody says, when my daughter says I'm scared, what do I say? Nobody says that. They know what to do, because that's a relationship. So if I wake up to the fact, oh, that's what this business is, and that's what people value the most in a coach, is relatedness, connection, and what occurs between us. They don't really care about my background or any of that. That can be off-putting. That, in fact, I've had people. I had a client, and I've talked about this before with you, who she was on the Oprah show. She did all these self-publicizing things and couldn't figure out why she wasn't getting clients as a coach. Well, people felt not related to her, like they couldn't identify with her. They couldn't feel connected. So when people wake up to the fact that, you know what, this is a relationship business. This is not a promotion, sales, marketing, personal branding, niche finding, list building. That's not what this is. And when they wake up to that, it's so good, because now the next person they talk to, their only intention is to relate and connect. It's not, what do I say when they say this? When do I say my fee? And that's what we talk. That's how those are the questions we ask about alien beings. What are their ways? What do we, like, they've come out of the spaceship. What do I say to them? How do I know if they speak English? People talk about potential coaching clients that way. Like they are other. Now, the problem with other in building a coaching practice is it collapses me into my ego and my personality. It reduces you to a target of opportunity, which dehumanizes you. And now we have to somehow put together an agreement to work together based on the greatest distance two people have ever felt from each other. Here's one person trying to get you to pay money, and here's another person with their skepticism and sales resistance up in there, and the coach is thinking, well, once they pay me, I'll be able to let my guard down and really show them what this if you're a 3P person, what this understanding, how their life can get so much better and less stressful, and how they can get into the flow of life with this understanding. But for now, I have to sell them and dehumanize them and disconnect. So I'm unrelated. And coaches actually do things that make them less related to this person than they would be if they just sat down next to them on a park bench.
Yeah, I love this, Steve. Everything that you're saying, and you're reminding me of a client that I've got who she's got a big email list, and we've been working together for 6 months or so, and she was struggling to get clients. She was really struggling to get clients, and she had no relationship with her list. She'd been running this list for 10 years. She'd been sending out newsletters. She had lots of people reading them, but there was no relationship. And what I encouraged her to do was start building a relationship, both in the way she was writing the newsletters, but actually talking to the people on her list, not selling them things, not trying to promote herself. And she found some really interesting things. Like, some of the people on her list were like, "Oh, we never thought you would coach someone like me. We thought that you only coached corporate types." Or they had such a different view on who she was, as opposed to who she really was. And it's the opposite, because I found, certainly for me, that when I was learning about coaching and trying to build my practice, I was encouraged, or I felt, whether tacitly I was encouraged, to, rather than build relationship, to be impressive instead. It's like, how impressive can I be? How many photos can I share of me looking really good? How many things can I share that make my life look good, so that people go, "Ooh, isn't he so amazing? Let me hire him, because then I can be like him." And what I found was, not only through the coaching with you, but I remember a client of mine once, when I shared something of how kind of I was upset about something, or had made a mistake about something, and he went, "Oh, you're human." And I went, "Yeah, did that not come across?" And it was a real wake-up call for me, because I was like, "Oh, I had been holding back," and I was like, "Oh, let me tell you just how human I am." And it was kind of the exact opposite of everything that I thought I had to do, but it brought me a lot closer to not only him, but so many of my clients.
Yeah, and we're afraid to love people. If I had to boil it down to one thing. So if I'm afraid to love people, then I'll build lists, and I'll put out newsletters, and I'll try to promote myself, and I'll have this be about manipulation and persuasion. Now, if I want to learn to build a client list, I'll throw that out, and I'll go back to what do I know about relating to people, to creating a relationship. So when my daughter comes in the room and she's hurting, or she's got an issue she'd like help with, I don't ask myself, who am I to help her? How will I impress her? What will make her think I'm a good parent? None of those questions cross my mind, because I'm in her world right now. I just enter her world. And if she tells me something she's having a problem with, I remember something I had a problem with that was like that, and I share that with her. And I can see that connects us. We're closer now. And I learned this going through 12-step recovery. I wrote my book that some people say has a negative title called Death Wish, and but it's about recovery from addiction, and people recovered by sitting in a circle with other people who were not experts, were not teachers. There was no hierarchy, like this is the teacher and you're the student. It was just share. Who are you? Open yourself up, connect. And that gave people strength and hope. That's what occurs when you have a client and you're in the middle of now you're in your fifth session, that's what occurs. That's when a coaching relationship goes well. But what coaches don't do is they don't start there. They're afraid to start there. They think, well, we'll get there sooner or later when it feels safe to me and it feels safe to them. But I've got to manipulate, persuade, and impress. And so if you really want to know how to build a practice, look to the people you love, and notice how you interact with them. Notice how you relate to them. Or that's why your relationship series is so good and inspiring for me, because it teaches how to build a practice, because you talk to all these wonderful practitioners and coaches about their relationship with a spouse or family member, someone close to them. A lot of times, if I have a prospective client and it's kind of stuck, we're not getting anywhere, I ask myself, if this were my best friend talking to me right now, who would I be? How would I be? What would I say? And everything changes, and I become a completely different person. And then they feel like, oh wow, I didn't know I could talk to you this way. And I learned this from a person I ended up writing a book with named Michael Bassoff. And he was he was a sports coach. And he was coaching at the University of Arizona, and he was recruiting athletes into the college program. And he had this amazing track record of recruiting great athletes into his program, even though he was recruiting against schools like University of Southern California, UCLA, big prestigious schools. He was at the University of Arizona, which didn't have that prestige, but he would get better athletes in. People would say, what are you doing? Why is this occurring? Well, the other schools would go to the athlete's house and make a presentation. And they would say, these are the features and benefits. If you come to the University of Southern California, we have this, we have facilities, we have that. And they would try to sell. Michael said, I wouldn't even talk about my university. I would create a relationship with the athlete's parents. I would create a relationship with the athlete. And through creating the relationship, we would sooner or later get around to talking about the school and the coaches, but the relationship came first. And when he went into another field of development and fundraising, he said, I have no experience here, but I noticed that people in fundraising, they go out to rich people and they make a presentation. If you give us this amount of money, you're going to give into this program, and we do have all these benefits and all that. And they would create distance between themselves and the donor. And he said, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to create a relationship with donors, whether they give me money or not. And the relationship will come first every time. And he raised more money than anybody. And he said, that's the key. And then I started working with him on that. I started training sales teams. And the salesman on the sales team who created a relationship with the customer first would be the one who would sell the most. You notice this on a car lot. You go to buy a car. And one car salesman, you feel right away like, oh my gosh, get me away from this person. He's trying to sell me something. There's no human connection I can trust here. But another salesperson comes up and he just wants to find out what kind of car you want. He wants to help you get what you want. And you feel that right away, because the salesman number two is creating a relation. He knows it's a relationship business. It is not a sales business. And so that's true more with coaching than in any other field I know of. But it's true in a lot of other fields too that you're in. If you could get, even in a company, it's your relationships that have the teamwork go well, the leadership go well. If you could really see the value of relationships, then everything would change for the better. But we're afraid to go there until we see it.
Yeah. And if people want to dive into this more, I can highly recommend your book, Steve, 50 Ways to Create Great Relationships. It's one that I read some time ago, and I was really amazed at how good it was. And so I would encourage anyone that wants to know more about this to read that book. And that book is one that we're going to be giving away on our 12-week online program. And if anyone wants to know more about that, please do reach out. I'm happy to talk with you about it and give you some more information. And I'm very pleased that you'll be joining us, Steve, because for me, from my heart, I really wanted coaches to see this whole relationship piece, as well as a number of other things, because I find that not only, unless it's just me, but I feel like it's not, that there was a lot of stuff that was implied around growing a coaching practice which didn't work for me. And what I'm finding is there's stuff that's actually harmful. And so sometimes when I talk to coaches, I feel like I'm having to deprogram them, away from being impressive, away from, marketing themselves, away from trying to become famous and selling, into what this business is really about, which is connecting with one person at a time, doing really, really, really good work and changing their lives for the better so powerfully that they talk about you. And that's kind of what I've seen in my own business. Yeah,
it's willingness to connect. That's it, and then becoming really more and more skilled at creating relationships instead of selling something or promoting something, because that's what the other person is looking for, and in a way, that's what you're looking for. One time, Emmett Fox, the spiritual teacher who I used to follow, he said, if you could only love enough, you'd be the most powerful person in the world. And it's true of coaching. If you could, if some prospect was talking to you, and somehow we could hypnotize you, or program you, or give you some drug. I don't know if it would be a combination of ecstasy and just a taste of some other drug. I don't even want to prescribe what the drug would be. But if you could only, if that person could feel your loving presence in their world, they would hire you in a heartbeat. That doesn't mean that you don't want to build your skills up as a coach, and you don't want to become masterful as a coach and be a really good coach. You can do that because that helps too. You can become a more skillful parent. You can learn about parenting. But when your child comes with a problem, it's your heart that connects to them and that they feel. That's the only thing that's important to them. It's not your script or your words or, I've talked to my child about her problem. How do I close? And it sounds absurd in that context, but that's the problem. The context is the problem with coaches. They place another human being, an innocent human being who has a longing to connect. They place them in a category called target. And then they do all these things, like you say, that are harmful to the relationship. Like they'll send them an agreement. Okay, you want to work with me, I'm sending you a 3-page agreement that is and it's such a buzzkill. And it's like, it warns you that I'm not a therapist, and if you attempt suicide, or if something occurs in your life as a result of coaching, I'm not held responsible legally. And they send them something that works against the relationship, because they're not thinking in terms of a relationship. They're thinking in terms of a target of opportunity, someone from whom I can get money. And if that's all I'm thinking about, there's no way for the other person to not pick up on that vibe, and pick up on, I can tell that's what you're up to. And then the coach says, how come they're not returning my emails? Or they said they wanted to work with me, but now they've gone radio silent. That would not occur if they had a relationship with you.
So I really want to respect the time. We've gone way over, but I can't even read. No, it's okay. This is great. We could keep going for another half an hour. I know we tried to keep it to 20 minutes today, but I hope that's been a good glimpse for people into this whole relationship piece. We could talk for a lot more about it. For those who are going to be joining us, we will talk more about it. And for those who are in my coaching group, please look out. I'm going to be making an announcement in there today. So do keep an eye out for that. Thank you, Steve, for joining me today for this and taking some time out of your schedule. I really do appreciate it, and I hope, many coaches, we've had a ton online, a load of comments. I can still see them coming through. But do reach out to either Steve or I if there's something that you didn't get, weren't quite sure about. Really happy to answer your questions.
All right. Thank you, Ankush. Always a pleasure.